Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be adding some walls to the mine tiles, so the kind of thing that you can see here. But it's not really meant to be something that you would add to every single tile, just something to add a bit of variety here and there. You know, to make the whole thing seem a bit more like a mine and less like a natural cave. And as always, there's a link to the PDF file for these down in the description, so let's get started. Okay, one of the ways we can use these is to take one of the wall patterns and then glue that to some corrugated cardboard, and I just like to use a glue stick for this. Then, once it's dry, we can cut it to size. Now, this next part is optional, but I like to vary the height of the walls between each of the upright posts. So, as you can see here, all I'm really doing is cutting down towards one of the horizontal planks, using the edge of the upright post as a guide, and cutting away a portion of the wall between each post, so that one of the planks forms the top edge of that particular section of wall, if that makes sense. Anyway, there's a good chance I've not explained that very well, but basically, we're aiming for this kind of thing. Then we'll need to make a mark on the back of the piece that lines up with the upright plank on the printed side, that is, the side of the plank that we just cut down, and then we're just going to score a line, maybe even cutting through one side of the corrugated cardboard itself, so that we're able to bend the whole piece into a kind of zigzag shape, like you can see here. Next, we'll need to start work on a new floor tile, and as you can see, I've already trimmed the two main edges to size, and cut the internal corner into the usual kind of shape, you know, so that it lines up with the other tiles that we've already made. And the idea here is to take the wall piece and position it in such a way that the ends of the wall line up with the edges of the regular tiles, which, in my case, are 3 inches wide. So here I am just bending it into a few different shapes and until I get something that I'm happy with, so something like that. And all we'll need to do now is apply some hot glue to the bottom of the wall, like so. And then glue that into place, making sure that the very ends are in the correct position, as that's the most important part to get right. And with any luck, that should end up looking something like this. Though, I also like to reinforce the back of the wall, just with a bit of extra hot glue, just to be sure that I've got a really good bond. Anyway, once the glue is set, all we'll need to do is trim away most of the excess floor tile from behind the wall, with a sharp knife, and it should go without saying, but do be careful when using a sharp knife. And there you go, there's our little corner piece, but we can add a few extra bits and pieces here and there, so that's what we'll do next. Okay, so all we're going to do is take a few strips of scrap foam core, cut out a piece of the wood texture to wrap around them, and glue that into place. And once the glue's dry, we can cut off the ends at a roughly 45-degree angle, like you can see here. And the idea for these is to have them act as little extra support beams that have kind of been braced against the wall, you know, maybe in areas where the wall's a little unstable. Basically, this kind of thing. So, all we'll need to do is apply a tiny spot of hot glue to each end, and glue both pieces into place. And there you have it. That's all there is to it really, and like I say, these pieces can be used to add a bit of extra interest to the mines. So if I just drop in a couple of crates, you can see the kind of thing that I mean, and as I said at the beginning, just adding a few of these pieces here and there, it really helps to make the whole thing look more like a mine and less like a cave. Well, it does in my opinion at least. But that's just one of the ways that these walls can be used. Another way is to, once again, glue the texture to some cardboard, and just like before, we'll cut that to size. However, in this example, I'm not going to use the whole piece, so I'll just cut off one of the end sections, and then mark out, on the back of the cardboard, the approximate position of each of the upright beams. This is similar to what we did with the first piece, because as you're about to see, we're just going to score a line down each of these positions, so that we can then bend the piece into a similar kind of zigzag shape. And if all of our markings were right, all of those folds should line up with the edge of one of those beams. Next, we'll take one of the floor textures that's already been glued to some cardboard, and we're just going to kind of position the wall on the tile somewhere, so that most of the floor tile is on the same side as the wall pattern itself. So, as you can see, I've marked 2 points on the grid where I'd like the wall to start and end, and just like before, we'll apply some glue to the bottom of the wall and glue that into place. And once again, I like to add a line of hot glue to the back for some added strength. Okay, so this is how it should look. So, since all of my own cave tiles have 2-inch exits, I'm just going to quickly mark out the spot where I want the entrance to be. So, over here. Then it's just the usual thing of cutting the tile into a random cave-like shape, and also cutting away the excess from the back of the wall. So yeah, that's all I'm really doing here. It's nothing you haven't seen before. And when we're done, this is the kind of thing that we should be left with. Okay, now we're going to take the plain stone texture and glue that to some more corrugated cardboard. Like so. But before we can cut it out, we'll first need to measure the height of our entire piece. So that's the height of the wall and the floor combined. And as you can hopefully see, in my example, it's around 2 1/8 of an inch. So I'll make a start by cutting one end to size, and then marking out this 2 1/8 of an inch measurement, and then trimming away all of the excess. Then it's just a simple matter of adding lots of little folds and creases to make it nice and malleable, so that we can glue it to the back of the wall that we just made, as we're going to make this into a little raised area, kind of similar to the multi-level dungeon pieces. However, before we can glue that into place, you'll notice that unless you've trimmed the floor tile right up against the back of the wall, it's not going to be a nice join, so we'll need to cut away any excess material here. So I'll just quickly do that for both sides. So that's the first side done, and now the second side. And with any luck, when we butt the end of this new piece up against the back of the wall, it should line up nicely. So now all we'll need to do is attach this to the back of the wall. There's not really much to say about this part really, so while I'm doing that, I'd just like to remind you all that I have a Discord server for the channel, and you are more than welcome to come and join the chat over there. Lots of people have posted pictures of some of their own projects and the stuff that they've been making, and I've even been using it to run a couple of online games myself recently. Anyway, this is roughly the shape that I'm going to go with for this one, so yeah, this is how it looks at the moment. Right then, to help make the top part of this higher level, I've been making simple templates. So just tracing a line around the inside of this piece, like you can see here. Then I'll make a rough approximation to allow for the thickness of the cardboard and for a slight overhang, and then cut it to size. Of course, if it's possible, by all means, trace around the top edge of the piece. That would be easier and more accurate, but that would have been a bit awkward for this particular piece. Now, if everything's gone according to plan, that should fit on top nicely. Which it does, and if you want to be sensible about this, you can then glue some of the gridless floor texture to some thin cardboard and use this template to cut out a suitably sized piece. However, if like me you like to make things difficult for yourself, you can do a similar thing with the gridded floor texture instead, and when doing this, we'll try to make the grid pattern of the upper level line up with the grid pattern of the main floor. It's a bit of extra work, but it can be done. Anyway, whichever option you go for, it's then just a matter of gluing this piece to the top of the wall sections, so that the whole thing ends up looking something like this. And, as I say, I've made this one so that it can be connected to my regular cave tiles, like so, though we are going to need a way for our characters and monsters to access this upper level, so this is the kind of thing that we're going to be working on next. Okay, to make this rickety scaffolding type stuff, we'll first glue the wooden plank texture to some thin corrugated cardboard. Then we'll cut out a piece that's plenty big enough for a model to stand on, so in this example it's 1 entire plank in length by 5 planks wide. Now this next part is optional again, but I like to cut the ends of the planks to different lengths and at different angles, just to make it look as though the whole thing's been crudely made. So that's all I'm doing here, just hacking away at the cardboard to give it a more interesting shape. And for this example, I've made 3 of these, all slightly different sizes. Okay, next we're going to take a whole bunch of different corrugated cardboard and cut those into various sized strips. And in addition to those, we'll also do a similar thing with some regular cardboard, and if you want to use the exact sizes that I've used, then they should be on the screen right now. Okay, then we'll just need to wrap all of these pieces in some of the plain wooden texture. So there we go, this kind of thing. And here's a whole bunch of them that I made earlier. Anyway, once all that's done, for this example I've cut 3 of the corrugated ones to a height of 1.5 inches, 3 more at 1 inch, and another 3 to 1/2 inch. So if I just get rid of all this other stuff and bring the wooden planks back in, we can then start putting everything together. Now, there's no real right or wrong way to do this, but for this example I've started off by gluing the longest legs to the bottom of one of the floor pieces to make a kind of 3-legged table, and that's what you can see me doing here. And the reason I've only attached 3 legs is because I'd like to have another floor piece beneath this one, in this kind of position. So I'll just glue some of the 1-inch legs to the bottom of this second piece. There we go. And I'm going to try and do a similar thing again for the bottom step. So, as you can see, a lot of this is just kind of making it up as you go along, but you'll soon get a feel for where an extra leg or support needs to go, mainly due to the fact that the whole thing will feel a bit unstable without it, if that makes sense. So yeah, no 2 of these are ever going to be alike, so I'll just get on with building this one. Okay, so we'll just pause slightly here to see how it's looking at this point. And now that all of the legs are in place, we can take some of the thinner card and use these to start adding extra supports here and there. And I like to stick these on at different angles, so I'll just cut this piece roughly to size, something like that, and then it's just a simple matter of gluing that into place, and there we go. Then it's pretty much up to you to decide on how many of these you'd like to add, but I'm going to go ahead and add a few more, so bear with me while I do just that. Okay then, so this is what I've come up with, and I've gone for a really ramshackle look for this one, and as I say, these work well at providing a kind of crude stairway to the higher level. Essentially, something like that. So yeah, that's it for this one. As usual, I'll end with a couple of pictures showing a few different layouts containing these new pieces, and like I've said a couple of times now, I really do think that just adding a few of these, it really does add to the overall effect. Anyway, all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I'll be interested to see what you think of these down in the comments, and do feel free to come on over to the Discord server. But yeah, bye for now.